Hey guys, it's Jonathan here from PlayGuitar.com. Today we're going to talk about hammer-ons and pull-offs. I know you can leave your tools at home for this. All we need is a pick and your fingers. Hammer-ons. Let's start with hammer-ons, okay? What I was playing there, it just sounded like the scale perhaps, but I was actually using hammer-ons and pull-offs quite a lot in that scale because you've got two options, right? You can you can pick every note, or you can not pick every note. I guess it's simple. Highly recommend practicing your scales, picking every note. Okay, you need to know how to do that. But not in all circumstances do you want to use your pick on every single note. For instance, if I want to rip through a scale really fast, perhaps using chromatic notes, I often hammer on the chromatic notes. And just kind of hit the main notes in the scale, right, with my pick. And that enables me to play faster, and it gives a slightly different sound as well to the notes that you're playing. So how do you do a hammer-on? Well, it's very simple, right? I'm not using my pick at all. All I'm doing is I'm hitting the guitar good and hard with on the note that I want with my finger. Now, in certain circumstances, you'll do this a little bit differently. For instance, on the electric guitar, I'm using the acoustic because that's typically going to be the hardest to do, hammer-ons and pull-offs and stuff like that. Not to say it can't be done, it definitely can. You just heard me playing hammer-ons and pull-offs on this acoustic, but I did it on here because it's actually a lot easier on an electric because you have everything amplified, and so I figure if you practice that on your acoustic, you'll be fine on the electric. So a hammer-on, very simply, is just banging on your guitar, right? So the trick is, of course, is that you want to be using the right notes, and we'll save the right notes questions for a different day, perhaps. But a good practice technique is to just kind of practice going through your scale. Because it'll force you to learn how to use a hammer-on with all of your 4 playing fingers, right? It's actually, like, you might find it very easy to just do that. For instance, I do that more naturally with my middle finger here. It's a little bit, it gets a little bit more awkward with the other 3 fingers. For some reason, my middle finger is just very natural at doing that. But you can practice, even do your chromatic scale. Make sure you can hear it, and this becomes, of course, easier on an electric guitar. But that just going through your scale like that, one hand only, will really force your fingers to get into that mode, and you can train all your fingers to be able to do the hammer-ons, right? So then how do you use that in the scale? Well, you could do things like that. Sometimes I do more of a rolling style, almost like, you've probably heard that in a few songs before. Something like that. Or, for instance, I was also combining hammer-ons and pull-offs when I was going through this scale. So you can play around with things like that. So let's talk about pull-offs then. How do you do a pull-off? Well, basically the idea is that you've got your note fretted already, and then you want to pull it off in such a way that it bounces around the string and you're going to make a noise out of it, okay? So here I'm doing a hammer-on pull-off combo, right? And you can see this is one of the popular ways of using that, right? You can really use that in your soloing. It's kind of tricky, but basically you want to be pulling it and actually popping The trick here is to really just kind of grab it, if I can explain that. I mean, it's kind of tricky, I guess, unless you sit there, grab a guitar and do it yourself, right? But it works really good in conjunction with hammer-ons. You can put in hammer-ons and pull-offs. So practice that. Once you get familiar with those things, you can start intermingling it with picking. For instance, you just looking at the top 2 strings here of the A minor pentatonic scale. If I hold down my finger on the 5th fret here, 1st and 2nd strings, I can pick this string here, the 2nd string, hammer on with my pinky, pick the 1st string, hammer on with my pinky again on the 8th fret, and then, so you can see how I'm kind of intermingling picking. I'm picking on these notes and hammering on or pulling off on these notes. So play around with that. The basic ideas here is that you're hitting the string without using your pick, and you're pulling off to get a tone without using your pick as well, right? So you're in effect using both hands to create notes on the guitar, as opposed to, you're now able to create notes using just this hand as opposed to previously using both hands. So that's kind of the general idea for hammer-ons and pull-offs. If you've got any questions, leave a comment below the video. Head on over to PlayGuitar.com, or if you're there already, leave a comment below the video, and I'll try and answer you and clear up any questions you might have. That's kind of the basic story. Of course, it's far easier on an electric, so if you can practice on an acoustic, you'll be just fine when you move over to the electric, and especially once you hit that crunch button there, the old talent pedal, as we like to call it. So anyways, hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day, and if you haven't already, head on over to GuitarTipsWeekly.com. You can sign up. I'll send you free tips. If you have, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit the yellow subscribe button, and we'll see you again next time.